So here is someone who goes on to MSNBC, some girl left-wing nut, and says, go green by not having any kids. Listen to this.
There are serious environmental consequences. We're going to have 3 billion more people soon than we did 40 years ago. We're coming up on 7 billion. So if you aren't sure you want kids, think about the environmental implications. There are a lot of people talking about ways that you can green your life and cut your carbon footprint. Well, there's one really easy thing you could do to green your life, and that's not have a child. I found an interesting study that came out last year from some scientists at Oregon State University, and they determined that if you have a child, it will increase your lifetime greenhouse gas emissions by 570%. And
if only her mother had known that. If only this girl's mother had set out to reduce her lifetime greenhouse gas emissions by 577%, we wouldn't be cursed with having to listen to this maniac. So here's a left-winger now going to the next step, saying that you can cut your lifetime, and they do it with such girlish glee. Cut your greenhouse emissions by not having children. And by the way, you can also bring your children to an Obama Care Center, and we'll get rid of them for you, and you can really go green by getting rid of your kids. And you get a token from the Obama administration, a little medal from Obama himself for each child you turn in. Turn in your children. A 570% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions for every child that you turn in. Life hatred, death worshiping. I rest my case. If only this Ditz's mother had had that study in her hands before she became pregnant, darn, we could have been saved this woman who was promoting Greengenics, a phrase I invented for you on the Savage Nation just now, which will be lifted immediately and put onto the blogosphere and stolen by people in radio and television by the time I say Yankee Stadium. So as I say, if only this broad's mother, whatever she is, I wouldn't even call her a broad, that would be a compliment. If only this lunatic's mother had understood that she could have decreased her lifetime greenhouse gas emission by 570% by not having her, God, we would have been spared this freak showing up on MSNBC. Sure. Well, the way to solve the environmental problems, the best thing you could do would be to go ask for a Dr. Kevorkian in your neighborhood to end your life, because that would be the ultimate contribution to society, wouldn't it? And I think that there's no better example than by example. I think that if all of the millions of green zombies in the United States of America and in Europe in particular were to go to a local eugenics center, I think that the example that they would set would be a very, very good one for the rest of the world. But, if you listen to this rhetoric, it's right out of Hitler's Germany. And I would suspect that if you went back to Hitler's Germany, some of the speeches that you heard then were probably given by the same kind of bright, shiny-eyed, bushy-tailed girls in the Third Reich who were saying things such as, well, the disabled in our society, or those who are born genetically mutated with horrible illnesses, are suffering, and by golly, it is certainly humane to put them to sleep and put them to rest, and it'll be good for the fatherland because we won't have to devote any medical care to these poor, unfortunate creatures. So why don't you join me in a day of national euthanasia for the handicapped? Hitler started by killing the handicapped. I don't think you know that. He didn't start by gassing the Jews and the gypsies and the communists and the trade unionists. Hitler started by gassing they euthanized the handicapped. But there was such an outcry in Germany over this horrendous, inhumane act that even Hitler had to stop killing the handicapped. There was no equal outcry when he started to gas the Jews and the gypsies and the others, of course. But we'll let that one just lie fallow for the moment. The point I'm trying to make is quite evident, which is that these left-wingers, these Greengenics promoters, are very much in keeping with the philosophies of the Third Reich, only they would be the last to even understand it, which is why they're allowed on MSNBC. It's the only place in the world that will have them. How they can tie in their death styles to being somehow superior on the environmental level is the interesting fact.
Well, exactly. If you're going to say save Mother Earth or save the trees by not...
Should each child be taxed? Every child that you have, should there be an additional tax burden, a greenhouse tax put on every child? Is that where Obama's going? That you'll be allowed to have 2 children only? Maybe like in China, you have to kill your girl babies in order to save the environment. Is that where we're going?
Yeah, I would not be surprised is that as they want to tax the cattle farting, they are going to tax you for having a baby. You know, it's going to be.
Well, as I said, I think we're going to soon see a suggestion coming from one of the microcephalics in the White House for an SAT, which has nothing to do with a scholastic aptitude test. It would be a sexual activity tax, where each movement of the spring costs you $1, let's say. At the end of the month, you get a little green meter comes in, and they see how many times your bed moved up and down, and the government gets to tax that. I mean, this is going to come to an end. You understand that this guy, Geithner, can't even afford his own house. You understand Bernd Bernanke is a man that belongs on a Barbasol shaving ad on the side of a road, not in charge of the Federal Reserve. You understand that these people are stupid. These are not smart men. These are front men. These are simply front men for the people who put them there like the puppets that they are.